Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. Terrorism poses a grave threat to international peace and security. Whether it is due to religious fanaticism, extremism, or a hate crime, acts of violence inflict severe damage on a country's security. And therefore, it is the need of the hour for the international community to act together against this menace. Even as India battles multiple terror groups operating from Pakistan, another country in the Oceania region has become the latest victim of terror. In one of the deadliest attacks in New Zealand, at least 49 people have lost their lives and scores reported injured. A group of people went on a shooting spree at two mosques full of worshippers attending Friday prayers in New Zealand. A majority of the deceased have been identified as migrants and refugees. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern described the events an extraordinary and unprecedented act of violence. Today in Depth, we try and understand in greater detail about the dastardly act in New Zealand, the probable reasons being cited behind the attack, and who were the intended targets. We also talk about what the world community is doing in its fight against terror. So New Zealand has been hit by one of the worst terror attacks in its history. 49 people so far have been killed and scores injured as attackers opened fire at the Muslim worshippers during Friday prayers at two different mosques in Christchurch in New Zealand. 4 people have been detained in this regard. One Australian national has claimed responsibility, posting a manifesto stating his racist anti-immigrant ideologies in a bid to justify the act of terror.
Terror rocks New Zealand's Christchurch city. Mass shootings at two mosques full of worshippers attending Friday prayers. 49 dead, scores injured. The dead include women, children, elderly, most of them migrants and refugees.
This is one of New Zealand's darkest days. Clearly, what has happened here is an extraordinary and unprecedented act of violence. Many of those who will have been directly affected by this shooting may be migrants to New Zealand. They may even be refugees here. They have chosen to make New Zealand their home, and it is their home. They are us. The person who has perpetuated this violence against us is not. They have no place in New Zealand. There is no place in New Zealand for such acts of extreme and unprecedented violence.
The first of the deadly attacks occurred at the Masjid Al-Noor at Deans Avenue in central Christchurch, killing nearly 40 people. One of the attackers live-streamed the video on social media, showing the attack in horrifying detail. The video shows a gunman walking into the mosque and spraying terrified worshippers with bullets again and again. The video has since been removed from social media platforms, and the police urged people not to share the disturbing video. Eyewitnesses revealed the gunman was white and was wearing a helmet with some kind of device on top.
Oh, there was around 1:45. I was stopped right. I heard the big sound, the gun, and the second one I heard, I ran. There were lots of people were sitting in the floor. The gun was from the door. I ran behind the mosque, and I sitting behind the container. I rang to the police.
There was a second shooting at the Linwood Masjid that killed 10 people. The attackers chose Friday since a large number of people attend prayers that day.
You will find, men, women, children. You'll find, a cross-section of the community. There will be anywhere between 350 to 500 individuals worshiping, because today is our congregational prayer. That's when people come around, within the city and the environs to worship. So you will expect anywhere up to 500 individuals worshiping in the mosque at the time the shooting took place.
The terror attack triggered a lockdown in the area. The injured were rushed to the hospital after the shooting. Police urged people to stay inside their homes. Police has detained 4 suspects, including a 28-year-old Australian national who claimed responsibility for the attack. He also published a 74-page long manifesto outlining his anti-immigrant ideology. 2 other men and 1 woman have also been detained. Police has also defused a number of IEDs attached to vehicles.
We are currently dealing with an unprecedented situation in New Zealand. It's very grave, it's very serious. We have dealt with an active shooter situation. We have multiple fatalities. At this point, I can't say how many, but it is significant. They occurred in 2 locations, 2 mosques in Christchurch. We have 4 people in custody. We are not aware of other people, but we cannot assume there are not others at large.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison condemned the terror attack by an Australian national.
Shocked. We're appalled. We are outraged. And we stand here and condemn absolutely the attack that occurred today by an extremist, right-wing, violent terrorist.
After the attack, the national security threat level has been raised to the 2nd highest level. Police authorities claim that none of the suspects have been on any watch list. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
India has strongly condemned the terror attack in New Zealand. Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi said the attack has proved once again that terrorism is the enemy of entire humanity. Let's listen in.
देखिए, आतंकवाद अमन का दुश्मन है, इंसानियत का दुश्मन है और इस्लाम का भी दुश्मन है। ये बात आज पूरी तरह से साबित हो चुकी है। आज पूरा दुनिया आतंकवाद के खिलाफ एकजुट है और आतंकवाद का कहीं पर भी किसी भी रूप में बीज भी हो तो उसका खात्मा जरूरी है।
The terror attack on 2 mosques in New Zealand has also left the entire world shocked. World leaders have condemned the attack and expressed solidarity with the victims. US President Donald Trump expressed his sympathies and wished his best for the people to recover from the horrific terror attack. British Prime Minister Theresa May also expressed her deepest condolences to the people of New Zealand on behalf of the United Kingdom in her Twitter message. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan also tweeted condemning the attack. He said it reaffirms the fact that terrorism does not have a religion. European Council President Donald Tusk said that his thoughts are with the victims and their families. The mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, tweeted that New York City is heartbroken over what has occurred in New Zealand. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan also expressed his contempt of the terror attack on the Muslims in New Zealand. He said the attack appeared as a result of long-term planning. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas also expressed his sympathies for the victims of the shooting in New Zealand. He conveyed his grief on the lives lost.
Kaldı ki ülkemi dahi Anadolu ve Batı olarak ayırmak suretiyle orada da kendine has değerlendirmeleri yapan ortada gerçekten bir terörist, bir katil var. Şayet derhal önlem alınmazsa bu kötü gidişin ürünü olan felaket haberlerine yenilerinin eklenmesi kaçınılmazdır.
Waffen anrichten können. Dieser schreckliche Anschlag, der mittlerweile 42 Menschen das Leben gekostet hat. Und lassen Sie mich auch zu Beginn dieser Konferenz sagen, dass mehr können wir zurzeit nicht tun in Gedanken.
And let's now slip into a very short break. Lots more coming up on the other side. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Human migration is an age-old phenomenon that stretches back to the earliest periods of human history. In the modern era, international migration is a complex phenomenon that touches on a multiplicity of economic, social, and security aspects affecting daily lives in an increasingly interconnected world. It is intertwined with geopolitics, trade, and cultural exchange, and provides opportunities for states, businesses, as well as communities. Migration has helped improve people's lives in both origin and destination countries and has offered opportunities for millions of people worldwide to forge safe and meaningful lives abroad. But not all migration occurs in positive circumstances. In recent years, the world has seen an increase in migration and displacement due to conflict, persecution, environmental degradation, and a lack of human security and opportunity. In our next report, we look at the recent migrant phenomenon across the world.
According to the World Migration Report 2018, there are 244 million international migrants globally that account for 3.3% of the world's total population. While the vast majority of people in the world continue to live in the country in which they were born, more people are migrating to other countries, especially those within their region. Work is the major reason that people migrate internationally. Workers constitute a large majority of the world's international migrants, with most living in high-income countries and many engaged in the service sector. Internal migration is even more prevalent, with the most recent global estimate indicating that more than 740 million people had migrated within their own country of birth. In the year 2015, Europe and Asia hosted around 75 million migrants each, which is 62% of the total global international migrants. These regions were followed by North America with 54 million international migrants in 2015, or 22% of the global migrant stock. Africa at 9%, Latin America and the Caribbean at 4%, and Oceania at 3%. The United States of America has been the main country of destination for international migrants since 1970. Since then, the number of foreign-born people residing in the country has almost quadrupled, from less than 12 million in 1970 to 46.6 million in 2015. Germany has been the second most preferred country, with over 12 million international migrants residing in the country in the year 2015. Nearly half of all international migrants worldwide in 2015 were born in Asia, primarily originating from India, China, and other South Asian countries like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Mexico was the second largest country of origin, followed by a number of European countries.
We saw what happened in Europe. We saw what happened all over Europe. The fear of immigrants, taking over jobs, the fear of immigrants destroying the sort of social harmony in a particular country. And that is something that is whipped up by right-wing forces in many countries. In fact, the tragedy is that instead of fighting this kind of feeling and trying to meet it with good sense, politicians everywhere, including in the developed countries, actually whip up this kind of frenzy against immigrants.
In recent years, the world has also seen a significant increase in displacement, both internal and across borders, which has largely stemmed from civil and transnational conflict, including acts of violent extremism outside actual war zones. Current data indicates that global displacement is at a record high. According to reports, there are over 68 million forcibly displaced people worldwide, out of which 40.3 million are internally displaced and 25.4 million are refugees. Over 3 million people are seeking asylum around the world.
It is happening, I think, in most developed countries or most advanced economies is that there has been some economic decline, and the inability of the economic environment to sustain the aspirations of the local communities is now resulting in them getting angry at outsiders, whom they consider as outsiders. So if the perception is gaining momentum in a lot of these countries that people come from outside, they take advantage of the local environment and they do not really become part of those societies.
24 people per minute per day worldwide were forced to flee their home in the year 2015. About 1 out of every 113 people worldwide were either asylum seekers, refugees, or internally displaced, and about half of the world's refugee population was under the age of 18. The United Nations declared 18 December as International Migrants Day. The UN did so to recognize the increasing number of migrants around the world and also to reaffirm member nations' commitments to migrants' freedoms and human rights. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Immigration is the international movement of people into a destination country of which they are not natives or where they do not possess citizenship in order to settle or reside there, especially as permanent residents or naturalized citizens, or to take up employment as a migrant worker or temporarily as a foreign worker. Now, this immigration process has certain pros and cons. What are these? Let's analyze in our next report.
The issue of immigration has made numerous headlines in the recent years. As the world globalizes in terms of economies, trade and investment, borders are opened up more easily for freer flow of goods and products. In the process, people have also become a part of this globalization. People immigrate from one country to another for a variety of complex reasons. Some are forced to move due to conflict or to escape persecution and prejudices, while others may voluntarily immigrate.
There is an anti-immigrant mood in Western countries. That goes without question. But how do you manage that? Those societies, those economies? How can you create a societal balance whereby the immigrants are coming, but they are coming in numbers which are managed, where the local communities or local individuals from lower socioeconomic strata do not feel disadvantaged, where you can create communities where outsiders and those from local communities actually intermingle, because that is not happening. There is a ghettoization of these societies, which is also unfortunate.
Immigration can have positive and negative impacts on both the host country and the original country. Benefits can be summed up as immigrants will often do jobs that people in the host country will not or cannot do. Migrant workers often work longer hours and for lower salaries, and while that is controversial and sometimes exploitive, it benefits the host country. Immigrants, when made to feel welcome in the host society, can contribute to the diversity of that society, which can help with tolerance and understanding. For the host country's economy, immigrants offer an increased talent pool if they have been well educated in their original country. But there are also numerous drawbacks. Immigrants can be exploited for their cheap labor. Developing countries may suffer brain drain as the limited resources they spend in educating their students amount to very little if that talent is enticed to another country. Immigration can also attract criminal elements from drug and people traffickers to other forms of crime and corruption. Immigration can become a social or political issue, where racism can be used to exploit feelings or as an excuse for current woes of the local population. Where there is a perception that immigrants and refugees appear to get more benefits than local poor people, tensions and hostilities can also rise. Concerns about illegal immigration can spill over to ill feelings towards the majority of immigrants who may be law-abiding and contributing to the economy. Many die trying to flee their predicament, and this can often make sensational headlines, giving the appearance that immigration is largely illegal and out of control. While Syria is understandably a focal point of the global refugee crisis, there are many other countries in the world's migration story. We cannot overlook the people attempting to cross the Mediterranean from Libya to Italy, Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar fleeing to Bangladesh and India, and thousands of Dominicans stateless in Caribbean. Since 2009, 3.4 million irregular migrants, asylum seekers or economic migrants entering without a visa or confirmed asylum status have entered the European Union. They arrived on flimsy boats by sea or crossed land borders. As numbers peaked in 2015, some EU leaders and observers worried that the migration crisis was an existential threat to the EU itself. 5 strategies that the EU has adopted to address irregular migration are divergent national approaches to accepting asylum seekers, using EU budgets to support refugee integration, strengthening EU external borders, collaborating with third countries to cut off transit routes, tying foreign assistance to stemming migration. Hungary has restricted illegal immigration, suspending the acceptance of asylum seekers sent back to the country by other European Union states. US immigration policy has also undergone a sea change since the inauguration of Donald Trump in January 2017. Although his public statements have largely focused on a few major objectives towards which he has made only limited headway, such as building a wall along the entirety of the US-Mexico border, the administration has taken other steps to redefine US immigration policies that are less visible but no less important. Italy has called for the detention and deportation of migrants, who it blames for the instability and threats in the country. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte has adopted a zero-tolerance approach to immigrants who are unwillingly to sign up to the country's way of life, telling those who refuse to adapt and criticize our values to behave normally or go away.
It depends on the country that you're, depends. There's nothing that you can say on this which is applicable across the board. Some countries deal with it successfully, others don't. It depends on the political setup in that country, the fissures in the society over there. There will always be sections of a population, of any population, that are aggrieved, that will provide a kind of fertile soil for politicians to take advantage of, to whip up anti-immigrant sentiments. Open societies, truly democratic societies, societies which have safety valves and the rule of law, and a society which is basically humane, deal with it better than others.
Migration will likely remain a long-term challenge for the country's politics, institutions, governments and values. Even with the drop in numbers and development of institutional capabilities to manage it, there are always pros and cons to it. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
That's it from us in this edition of In Depth. We'll be back same time on Monday now with a comprehensive view on some other subject. You can also watch our episodes online on YouTube and Twitter and send us your valuable feedback and suggestions. Thank you very much for your time.